Welcome in and hello. How are we doing here on a fantastic, as that's Will Manis. My name is Bryce Koon here on a fantastic Wednesday evening. Will was not expecting that. I wasn't expecting it either. We welcome you in. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit the like button and make sure you subscribe.
Fire whoever's working in the back.
Yeah, that's, it's a hand up situation. That's fine. But hey, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going full ACC preview. All 40 million teams in this conference across the entire show. Going to be a lot of fun. So, lock it in, lock it, cock it, restock it, and let's roll. Let's have a little fun on tonight's show. Make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe to it. You're watching the Crowded Booth here on a Wednesday night.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Welcome into the show. We appreciate it. Nancy, yes, 40 million teams inside this conference, it feels like, as we get ready to talk a little bit about the ACC. First off, welcome in. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and check us out on all those platforms. We appreciate if you're listening after the fact or watching after the fact there as well. You can join the Discord down in the description below, wherever you're watching this. Continue to talk some college football with us, as fellas. A lot happening in the college football world. Especially down in around the Destin, Florida area here recently. A lot of stuff happening. We'll talk about that here, in a little bit. But man, I'm excited to talk a little bit ACC football tonight. I'm excited to kind of go through this conference where, Ralph, you texted us. You said, have you seen the over-unders for this conference? And it's what we say every single year. It's not an indictment. It's just that there's not very many elite teams in this conference. There's a large just muddle of just the muddle of midness, I guess we could call it, in this conference that allows it to who's going to go above that. So we'll dive into the teams. It's a long show. We appreciate all the SEC fans that tuned in, especially the Oklahoma Sooner fan. Well, I'm going to tell you this. The Oklahoma Sooner fan that literally watched the entire show dedicated, but watched it solely to get Oklahoma. And if you know the alphabet, if you're not new here, if you know the alphabet, O is pretty far down the line. But I do want to address the big elephant in the room, or I should say the big bling in the room. The Yellow Jackets are getting a ring this year for sure. Any comments on the rings designated that Georgia Tech posted, by the way?
I mean, it's pretty common nowadays. I mean, for teams to make a ring, but yeah, I mean, that's normally for a bowl game, and it seemed like the Birmingham Bowl is kind of the afterthought of the Georgia Tech ring, which I just find interesting. I mean, yes, you had a great season defending your home field, but is that worth a ring? I don't think so.
Ralph?
I said my true thoughts personally to y'all in our group message, but it just seems like a participation trophy. It really does. I mean, I understand the whole thing of players get rings every year, but no one sees them. That's a personal thing between the team and the players and the coaches, but you don't post them on social media and expect everyone to be excited for them. It's just go hang a banner in the practice facility at this point. It's dumb. I really do. I think it's dumb.
It was weird. I think it's more of at first I thought it was a class ring, by the way, which I was like, okay, cool. Like for the seniors, you go out and you win every single game inside Bobby Dodd. That is an accomplishment. You want to win all your games at home, right? That's something you want to do.
My thing is, though, is you put the win on against Florida State on there.
Yeah.
Come on.
Alex.
I mean,
it's a year without Geoff, so that is worth celebrating. That's fair.
Was that a home game for Tech? Playing in Ireland?
Were they
Did they give up a home game? I don't remember.
Florida State wore maroon, did it not? Or were there?
Well, Georgia Tech wears white all the time.
So. Tech wears white at home.
Yeah, they wore literally white every single game this past year. So it is what it's. No, I think it's weird. It was just weird the social media push. Like you had to know there would be some type of backlash without a lot of context. I think that was the big thing about it. Like other than that, there's maybe just the presentation on social media. But you know what, man? It was funny to see the fan base react to it, I think, because you had people like, what the heck is this? And then you just had those people that will literally be standing, and I'm not saying this is going to happen under Brent Key at Georgia Tech, but they're going to be standing in the building and everything is then burnt down. Like the fire's not still going. Like Ralph's already left. The match is lit, and what has happened. Ashes around them, and they're saying it's all good. Like what's that little meme of that guy? Like I'm in danger, or like everything's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah,
Everything's
I have
fine.
it. Yeah, I have that right now on my laptop. If I could get it to you, I would show you.
The portion there's a portion of that fan base this is the fan base that lives and dies with that type of
Hey, do what you want to do. Do what you want to do.
Yes.
That one out there. No, this is fine.
This is fine. I like it.
Do what you want to do. As far as the social media campaign is concerned, it did its job. It got people talking. So
very true.
That's for sure.
Georgia Tech doing something right.
Yeah, get in the media. I think that's it.
By the way, it was a home game against Florida State.
I think so too, Nancy. Maybe being posted to kind of create a stir. Okay, we appreciate you watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and we appreciate you tuning in. We thank you so much. We'll catch you next. No, I'm just kidding. We got 18 teams to go through here, folks. All right, let's start with team number 1. Ralph will just kind of go straight through.
It's all in order.
These over-unders are sitting on Bet Online. You can make sure you use code BLEAV, BLEAV 50 to match up for that, first deposit there for you. The Boston College Eagles, Thomas Castellanos no longer there. Bill O'Brien in year number 2. Fellas, as I was kind of like walking through this and looking through, some of these over-unders, this is one of the teams where I'll kind of give my take on this, kind of, just going. New quarterback, potentially. You have Dylan Lonergan going to be up there. The guy, that transferred from Alabama, was a really good high school baseball player, by the way. Very good high school baseball player. Boston College, though, I think whatever they're going to do on offense, like I don't think they're going to be absolutely anemic because Bill O'Brien's an offensive guy. I'm concerned defensively. When you lose a top 35 draft pick and the guy that they lost, when you lose some guys defensively that helped them out, this schedule is not easy. They're going to have to go play Michigan State on the road. They're going to have to play Notre Dame out of conference. They also have to play Clemson, Louisville, and SMU, which I think everyone pretty much says those are probably top 6, top 7 teams in the conference each and every single year. I don't even know if this team, talent-wise, is going to be worse than last year's 7-win squad. I just think it's tougher sledding, and there's some unknowns defensively. So I'll kick it off here. I'm taking the under at that 5.5. I think they could go 5-7. Maybe 4-8. I don't. There's a lot to prove defensively for this group, and man, that schedule right now on paper does not do them a lot of favors. So whoever wants to take it, we'll go with Will. Will, you go first here.
I'm going to take the over. I think maybe a little bit of correction because we were so negative on the Bill O'Brien hire. Did a lot of great things to go 7-5 a year ago, and I think Dylan Lonergan is a really, really good quarterback. I think there's the familiarity there. Bill O'Brien recruited him to Alabama. He was the offensive coordinator at the time. And the schedule, it doesn't scare me away all that much. I mean, I think Michigan State on the road is a winnable game for Boston College.
Yeah.
Start going on the road, got to go cross country to Stanford. The travel is going to make that tough, but that's a winnable game. Cal, winnable game. Pitt, winnable game. UConn, winnable game. There, I see 7 or 8 winnable games here. Not necessarily think that they'll win them, but 7 or 8 winnable games. I'm going to go with the over. I think they make another bowl game.
5.5 is the over-under. I take the under. Will takes the over on the Eagles. I continue to hate on Boston College. Ralph, it's a 1-1 split right now. We didn't have this on Monday night, but we've got it here tonight. What is what's the tiebreaker here? What are you rolling with?
I'm with Will on this, actually. I'm with you on the schedule. I think the schedule is really not that intimidating. I think Michigan State's in a winnable game also. This defense is really veteran-led. It's a lot of seniors and senior transfers and juniors. It's got a lot of guys who's been there for a while and been in college football for a little bit. So you got some leadership there, and you got some transfers on the offensive line coming in this year. And I mean, whether it's Dylan Lonergan or Grayson James, I think they're going to be okay at quarterback. They got some good running backs coming this year. It's a new team for Bill O'Brien technically because a lot of the guys are gone, but their schedule to me is favorable. I mean, I believe you can win 4 out of the first 5 games pretty easily.
I had them going in that first 5, by the way, for people who don't know, have it right in front of them. Fordham, which, maybe you didn't even know they fielded a football team, at Michigan State, at Stanford, Cal, and Pitt. I had them going 2-3 in that run. I think, we've all mentioned this game. The Michigan State game for me is probably where you could set the tone for the rest of the season. I know it's only week 2, but it's like if you go on the road and beat them, they're not a juggernaut by any means. But look, I mean, Boston College, Michigan State, it kind of feels like 2 programs that are going to be battling for some bowl eligibility. I think that, you go over there and beat them. That's a big confidence booster for like what you said, Ralph. This is a new team. You're going to have whoever's playing quarterback wants to gain some early season confidence. Other than that, the stretch from October 25th to November 15th could make or break your season in terms of getting that over under win total and going to a bowl game. You're playing at Louisville, home against Notre Dame the very next week, SMU at home, and then home against Georgia Tech. If you can go 3-2 or 4-1 in those, you've got a great opportunity, obviously, to hit the over. If you go 1-3 or 2-3 or God forbid 0-4 in those 4 contests, I have a tough time seeing it. So I think there's several. That Michigan State game for me is a pivotal, like, tone-setting game for them early in the season, and then that stretch from October to November. Are you real, or are you just kind of in the middle of the pack, or are you at the bottom of the ACC right there if you're Boston College?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a tough sled. Really just after Clemson. I mean, you have UConn there. UConn was not a slouch last year, but after that, your conference games are tough. I mean, you did not get the favorable conference schedule this year, by no means. But welcome to the new age of football, where you play conference play. You're going to play a lot of good teams now in some of these conferences, and they just pulled the good teams out of the conference this year.
Yeah. Will, any final thoughts on the Fighting Bill O'Briens?
They're having to rebuild that offensive line. Was it 3? Well, a tackle, starting offensive tackle, and your starting center going to the NFL. Kind of going to have to retool that offensive line. So I think early on in the year, we keep talking about this Michigan State game. First real test, as it should be. That's what you expect. But that's going to be the litmus test for sure, and it comes in week 2.
Boston College, the Fighting Bill O'Briens in year 2 under his tutelage. We'll see. Obviously, if they can get to a bowl game. I'll tell you, if they match and they go back-to-back bowl games, that's a pretty good foundation for his first 2 years up there in Chestnut Hill. All right, let's move on to the next one. This one's going to have a nice little spot in the heart of Will, as the Cal Golden Bears. Now, I want to set the stage here. Last year, Will was kind of I think you were high on Cal. I think you liked the job that Justin Wilcox has done in terms of being a defensive mind. They really haven't been great defensively, but just his makeup as a head coach. I guess the big thing we got to, the elephant in the room here we've got to kind of talk about is that new offensive coordinator, Brian Harsin, going to be roaming the sidelines out there in the Berkeley area. I'll kind of give my take on this. The quarterback position's interesting, right? You've got, Devin Brown, who feels like he's been playing for a really long time. You also have, I'm going to try to do it, Jaron Kiwa Saga. We're going to call him Saga. Saga
Polutele.
So you have that, which you have some intriguing options. I think that's the word, intriguing. I don't know how great it is, but you've got some intriguing options there as well. Here's the big part. I think early on in this schedule, when you look at it, you're provided with an opportunity to start off on a good note. That's and build some momentum. If you can go beat Oregon early in the season, if you can go beat Texas Southern at home,
Oregon State,
beat Oregon State. You beat Texas Southern, you beat Minnesota. Like, those are 2 pretty solid wins, including an FCS win that kind of could set the tone for you. That being said, if you can play well enough in the non-conference schedule, at 5.5 wins, you start to kind of see a path to 6. I do think there's some coin flip games. We'll talk about those in a second. You don't have to play Clemson or Miami this year. But, man, I don't know. Like, you no longer have Jade Knott. You've lost some of the firepower. It's going to have to be guys that step up for Cal here under Brian Harsin. So I'm going to tentatively, I just want to say this. Will's going to crucify me. I think I might take the over here on Cal. I think they can get to 6. I think this team can get to 6 wins with some of the coin flip games that they have. So that's where I sit with them. Ralph, I'm not going back to him here 2 times in a row, but I feel like I got to give him the platform here to talk about his favorite offensive coordinator of all time.
Let me go ahead.
Yeah. So talk about What can Cal fans expect? God, I don't even know why I'm asking this question. What can Cal fans expect out of Brian Harsin?
No recruiting. That's for sure. But it's really interesting, and I think I'm going to actually be nice, because go back and watch some highlight tape of Brian Harsin, the offensive coordinator, what his offenses did at Boise State, at Texas. A lot of exotic things, some reverses, some double passes. You'll see a lot of that, especially at Texas. He had the personnel to do that. But man, it really got bland when he became a head coach at Arkansas State, at Boise State, at Auburn. He's certainly not going to recruit. And, that kind of theme, this kind of bad smell that kind of surrounds Brian Harsin in 2025 followed him to Cal, because it was within a week when he got there, Jaden Ott goes in the transfer portal and he's gone. He goes to Oklahoma. You're muted.
Every single running back that they had about went in the transport, including Ott. Point.
Yep. Just about everybody went in the portal. But looking at this schedule, I want to say that they get at least 6 wins, because I do really like Justin Wilcox. He's a great defensive mind. That defense is going to be really, really good. I mean, he put 3 guys in the NFL this year. Three guys drafted this year. So they're losing a lot, obviously, both sides of the ball. Those guys on defense, a lot of offensive transfers. I just worry about the offense. I mean, are you going to go with Sagapolutele, the true freshman at quarterback? Certainly has all the looks and makeup of being that big playmaker. But knowing Brian Harsin, they're probably going to go with Devin Brown, just going with experience, based on his track record. But this is very interesting. We talk about it a lot. Head coaches, they make one bad coordinator hire and that's it for them.
Yeah.
And I hope this isn't the case for Justin Wilcox. Yes, he's got a losing record in 9 years at Cal, but we're talking about Cal. So I don't know. I'm going to go the over. Again, it goes against everything that I feel, but I'm going to take the over. I think the defense will be good enough
for Justin Wilcox.
Pin it here.
Yeah.
Will has taken the over for a Brian Harsin team.
Yeah, I think that you look at this schedule and knowing what Justin Wilcox, a lot of trust in what Justin Wilcox will do that defense to reload this defense and get them ready to go. Their defense will keep them in games, and they may have to score some points for them, but we'll have to see. I think they get to 6 wins. The schedule is really, really gettable.
Yeah. Ralph, what do you think? Over, under 5.5? Where are you sitting right now?
I'm going to go over also. It's just favorable to schedule. I think you talked about Devin Brown a minute ago. We feel like he's playing forever, but he really hasn't, because he never plays.
He's been on the roster.
He's been on the roster for 4 years, but he has not played a single snap, it feels like. I don't know what they're doing at quarterback. I really don't. I mean, Devin Brown's obviously the guy who has the most playing time, which isn't very much. You talk about the offense. You replace, 8 guys on the offense this year. That's not easy to do. Not including the 5 you're replacing on defense, and then your whole entire special teams unit is gone. So you got to replace them too. This is almost a full roster change for Wilcox. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know how I feel about Brian Harsin at OC. Just from watching Auburn games with Will when he was a head coach, and just watching the downfall that happened when he was there, and the downfall that happened since he's been at Cal. So I'm going to go over just because of the schedule, truly. I mean, Will is completely right. It's a gettable schedule, and there's a lot of games on there that are pretty easy to win.
Trevor says that Ralph could be a walk-on running back at Cal. They're so depleted there. Johnny says Devin Brown could be serviceable. Also like the stream. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Disagree. They brought in LJ Johnson from SMU. Pony up.
Pony up. Let's talk about real quick before we get out of here with this one, the coin flip games. I think if they split Duke or in North Carolina, they get to 6. If they win both of them, they can get to 7. I think those are the games right there for me that look, you get North Carolina at home.
Virginia Tech.
At home. What is
I
that?
think Virginia Tech could be a coin flip too. I know they have to go
the
on the
reason
road.
I listed those two is because you're going to be at home for a 3-week stretch. Duke, bye week, North Carolina at home. That thing, and to your point, Virginia Tech, you could definitely do that. It's just something about those. I want to go back and look at some of the numbers of the cross country trips. Because I think like when Miami went to Cal and almost lost, they were like one of the first teams to pull off like a win. Like I know in the NFL that's happened so much, but it is going to be interesting. So yeah, we'll see. That's
Cal,
the Golden Bears.
Doesn't Cal travel the most this year? I think they
Wouldn't surprise me.
Well, they go to Boston College,
to Virginia Tech, to Louisville.
Yeah,
Oof.
I mean that's some traveling this year, but yeah, I mean it's also they do have back-to-back week Friday games. It's very interesting. So
it is. Well, Cal Golden Bears. We've already spent too much time on them already. All right, let's roll into team number 3. This is a team that in Clemson, 9.5 wins per bet online. I mean, we've talked about this team a lot. We talked about them last week. We talked about coaches under the pressure cooker. I think this is the thing with Clemson with me. I'll go ahead and say it. I'm taking the over in this team. I think this is a on paper a championship winning level team. Like not just can get there. I think this team can go win it all. Defensively, we talked about it. All 3 levels. They have NFL type of players, especially in the front 7 of the back end. We talked about Will, last week. Avion Terrell is a guy that a lot of our viewers should be familiar with his brother being AJ, being with the Falcons. You have obviously what they have up front 7, and then Sammy Brown in the linebacker spot, just a dynamic guy. I like what they have defensively, and I think Cade Klubnik. Here's the thing about Klubnik here in 2025. The quarterbacks that have left kind of took away a lot of the hype around him last year. He was really sneaky good. So now the spotlight's going to be on him. And I think if he just has the same season that he had this past year, people are going to be like, okay, so he's overrated. Well, I think it's more of a result of like, he doesn't have to. I said this about Arch Manning on Monday. I don't think Cade Klubnik has to be a Heisman finalist for Clemson to win a national title. I think that they have really good depth. The wide receiver room has been rebuilt there as well. Really good talent, top heavy there. They do have to replace Jake Brenningstool, which is going to be interesting at the tight end spot. The running back room is going to need, some guys to elevate the play as well. But I really like Clemson. I love the addition that they've made on the defensive side of the football there too, with Tom Allen as the new DC. So I'm taking the over here. I'll just tell you, I think they lose 2. And I think it comes as a combination of these teams. Louisville, potentially. Louisville, South Carolina, LSU, SMU, and Georgia Tech. That's the 5.
Don't forget a week 2 matchup there, Bryce.
Oh, I remember.
Troy doesn't have a quarterback.
Yeah. So
right.
LSU, Georgia Tech, SMU, Louisville, South Carolina. Those 5 teams, if you just lose 2 of those 5, you should go 10-2, find yourself in Charlotte, find yourself in the ACC title game.
Hey, how about this? The first 3 games that Clemson plays are all our teams. They play your team, Bryce. They play my team. They play Will's team third.
Who's Will's team?
Georgia Tech. He's the biggest Tech fan out of all of us.
Oh, well, there you go. That is true.
I don't know where that came from.
I said it yesterday in Discord.
All right, Ralph. Over under 9.5 wins. What do you think here with the Tigers?
Over. I've been saying it all year. They're going to win the ACC. I think they're a clear cut favorite for the ACC. Clear cut favorite to be in the playoffs this year. One of the top favorites to be a national champion. I said last year Klubnik was a dark horse for the Heisman. Really went under the radar the entire season. Had an insane season really last year, and like you said, doesn't have to be flashy because he's not. He's just he's a baller. You talk about the front 7. TJ Parker, local kid here for us, absolute menace on the defensive line. Then you had to worry about Peter Woods up front. I mean, it's a dynamic duo, the 2 of those guys on the front line, honestly. And then you talk about Sammy Brown, the kid's an athletic monster. I mean, he was a state champion wrestler. I think he played track. He ran track and field at the same time. Also, I mean, he's a full-blown athlete. The kid can play football and he can hit. So they're loaded all over the field, and this team is just really built to go out there and win a lot of games this year. I think they win 10, 11 games easily.
Well, we talked about on Monday, 9.5 is really hard to kind of hit the over on. I mean, that's a lofty number of wins. Ralph and I both kind of said it pretty confidently here that we think the over hits. Is this one of the, and maybe you go a different way with this, but is this one of the safer bets in your opinion to go over? Like, out of all the 9.5 odds wins, you're like, yeah, I feel pretty good about Clemson hitting the over that, especially playing in, not having to play in the SEC or the Big Ten.
Yeah, I do. I mean, you look at their roster on paper, they're better than probably 11 teams on their schedule on paper. Yeah. The only one that they may not be better than is LSU. Even then, it's very close with South Carolina. But what I really like this offseason is they used the portal for the first time ever, and they did a heck of a job. They go out and get Tristan Smith, big 6'5" wide receiver from Missouri State. That's not Missouri State. Who is that? I can't remember. Who is this? I got to click on
Missouri State, isn't it?
Southeast Missouri State. I'm sorry. Make sure I get that right. Southeast Missouri State. Big target for Cade Klubnik to throw to, a different type receiver that Clemson really doesn't have, even though they've got a ton of wide receivers. And Will Helt, I think is how you say his last name, edge from Purdue. I mean, that guy is going to be living in the backfield, causing chaos for quarterbacks all year because, like we've talked about, you're going to be worried about those other guys in that front seven. So you bring in a guy that is probably going to get a lot of one-on-ones and probably going to win a lot of those one-on-ones for you this year. So Clemson, I think they got even better on both sides of the ball. I think they're going to win the ACC, and they'll be back in the playoff for sure. But I think they're going to go all the way, win the ACC, and win 10, 11, 12 games.
And Dennis says I'd get it now before it gets pushed to 10.5. That might be an interesting bet to go get there too. No, we're all in agreement. This feels like just on paper here in the month of May as we get ready to get to June. If you're going to bet the over on 9.5 wins for a team in college football, Clemson might be the one you want to hit at. And I believe those odds, like we said, all of them you can find over at Bet Online. All right, let's roll to the next team, fellas. Continue to go through. We go down to Durham, North Carolina, where Manny Diaz and the Duke Blue Devils are gearing up for year number 2. Now, listen, this was a team that finished in a tie for 4th place, I believe, in the ACC standings, a 5-3 record, 9 wins overall. They had to win some pretty close games last year. But, man, they were in the headlines. Darian Menza, the new quarterback for the Duke Blue Devils. I guess we kind of forget about that because so much has happened since, the probably the most obvious tampering situation or the agent involvement situation that we've ever seen in college football. But I will say this. The over-under's at 6.5 for the Blue Devils. I think that if you really looked at this, okay, I'm not saying they're going to win 10 games. But we always talk about this. We talk about schedule projection, right? What are the games that you're like, man, they're going to have to play well above themselves to win that game? I think there's 2. I think it's at Clemson, and I think it's at home against Illinois because I think Illinois is kind of the darling for a lot of people right now with Luke Altmaier. Those are the only 2 games on the schedule. I'm like, yeah, you're going to have to play you're going to play a really, really good game to win those 2. Elsewhere, I think you got a fighting chance if you're Duke. So, Darian Menza will be interesting. I do think, though, to that point, it's not with a high confidence level. I think this is a lot of potential toss-up games, a lot of potential one-score games on this schedule, too. If they can survive the early part of it, and the time zone hopping they've got to do this season, too, if they can kind of survive that portion of it, I'm going to take the over at 6.5. I'm going to put them at least at 7. I think that they can get there with some of the opponents. Because, look, I mean, you're going to be playing, let's give it Elon, okay? You've got Virginia, Wake Forest. Those are 3 games that you should win on paper. Like, you have the 2 worst teams in the conference there, 2 of the worst teams in the conference. At UConn, there's 4. Can you find me 3 more? I think between on the road at Tulane, NC State, Georgia Tech, at Syracuse, at Cal, and then at North Carolina, I think you can find 3 there. So I'm going the over on Duke's win total. I think Manny Diaz continues to be a good coach in the ACC. I think the defense is going to play well. And if they go above that, then Darian Menza really kind of took off for you, and they really made a good investment too there. So, Will, your thoughts on this? I saw you kind of said when I mentioned Illinois there. What do you think here?
Yeah, I'm going to go the over too, but I was thinking the games where they're really going to have to play well. I'm with you on Clemson 100%, but I was thinking that game against Tulane. Oh, all the storylines, all the motivation from Tulane's side after Duke steals their starting quarterback, Darian Menza, who, we could be sitting here in December talking about he was the best quarterback in the ACC. I think he's that talented. I think he's at a good place, a place where he can really really excel and really grow as a quarterback, and still kind of be on the national stage. They bring in some weapons for him. Landon King, tight end from Utah, Andrel Anthony, wide receiver from Oklahoma. So, man, I'm taking that over. I see potential for even 9 wins. I mean, that seems kind of crazy we're talking about Duke to win 9 games, but can they go on the road and win at Syracuse? Can they win that big game against Illinois at home? I mean, it's another game in the ACC out of conference against a Big Ten opponent where we're going to learn a lot about a team. Like we're going to learn a lot about Boston College when they play Michigan State. We're going to learn a lot about Duke when they play Illinois. But I'm going with the over. I think Duke can make some noise.
Ralph, we talked about this as we led up into the ACC. There is a sense of a logjam in the middle of the conference, and Duke's definitely been a part of that over the past couple of years. These teams that kind of jockey for bowl positioning and really kind of sit on that 6 to 7, maybe even 8-win threshold. This has always been a program, I think, that has looked to make that next jump. They went out and paid a premium for a quarterback, whatever the actual figure was for Darian Menza. When you look at over under 6.5 wins, you look at that schedule. What do you like about it? Are you going way over? Are you going under by any chance? I mean, where do you sit with this team?
I think before the show started, I would probably said under. Just because they were good. We were so high on them last year, and or at least I was, and I just kind of was really lackluster. Just no run game for them. Defense kind of didn't show out as much as I wanted them to, and they had some games where they played very well, but the SMU game was one of the best games they played last year, and they still lost, but they showed up for a whole 4 quarters and gave a very good team a good run. I think they were quarterback away last year from some wins, and they got the quarterback this year. I'm thinking they're getting 7 wins. I don't know if I can see the 9 wins, but I'm with Will, though. That Tulane game is a lot more important than it shows because of the storyline. I mean, truthfully, it's going to be huge for that kid to go back to his former school and play against a crowd that cheered for him not even a year ago. And it's going to be, tension is going to be high. It's going to be a lot of pain for him to go back there. I'm sure, he's still got friends there. So, I'm going over. I'm getting them at 7 wins right at the dot. There is room for them to go 8-9 wins. But if you think about it, if they get 9 wins, are we talking about the team that's going to be in Charlotte with Clemson with a 9-win season?
I mean, if the 3 losses are Illinois, Tulane, and Clemson, they have 1 conference loss. So, yeah, I think to a certain extent, yeah. I would even say this about it, like, I think the ceiling is 10. Like, I do believe that. I think if Darian Menz is the real deal, and Dennis says this, he goes, I will say this, if Duke is going to win 9 games again, they are going to have to play significantly better than they did last year. And I think what makes the difference for them is you understand a Manny Diaz team is going to have that gritty defense. Regardless of the talent level, they're going to have a gritty, well-coached defense. Now, do the guys execute every single play? That's the nitty-gritty we don't know until we get into the game. But in terms of plan and preparation, Manny Diaz is one of the best, defensive minds in the ACC. That being said, everyone knew last year that their weakness was the fact that they really couldn't move the ball explosively at all with Malik Murphy. If Darian Menza provides that, and this is a team that, wants to get out of the middle of this, logjam in the ACC, then he's your X factor. He's your catalyst. It's pretty self-explanatory. I feel like it's pretty simple. Like, if he plays up to his caliber and more and continues to just on this trajectory, why couldn't they be a dark horse to go to Charlotte? I like Duke's program. I wish Dr. Bob was here tonight to kind of relay some more information on what he thinks about it. But I think the Blue Devils have a chance to leave that logjam this year because that schedule is, you've got some games where it could be 50-50, but if you are who you think you are, and that X factor is as much of an X factor as you hope and how much you paid for them, you should be winning games against NC State, at Syracuse, at Cal. Those are the games you should be taken care of. So the Duke over under 6.5 wins. We all go with the over on the Blue Devils here in 2025. All right, the next program up on the docket is a team that, first off, just public apology. We did not listen to the well-informed people that told us what was going to happen last year. And just the disrespect that we showed everybody by we giving Florida State the over-under at 7.5 here.
I don't feel bad.
Man, this is I think this is just a weird projection with Florida State. I guess the good thing is they made history last year as the first ever 17th place team in the conference. That had never happened before. Florida State is an enigma. I don't think anyone really knows what this team is going to do here in 2025. There is a lot of reasoning why inside the fan base, and I think when you look at their roster, you can think that they're going to back it up. We talked a little bit about Florida State last week when we talked about the pressure that, Mike Norvell was under. Who really is he? I will tell you this, some people nationally have said that they think they're a prime candidate to flip their record from last year. I would be floored if they went 10-2 this upcoming season. I just think that would be crazy. But you start off with Alabama, right? And I think this is a team that at 7.5 wins, I have no idea. And I think Indinas hits this on the nail on the head here. This is an in-season bet for me. I need to see how they look like the first couple of games to get any feel. Well, unfortunately, we have 93 days until the season starts, so we can't make that bet right now. We've got to say it live here on air right now. I think they definitely lose games to Alabama, Miami, Clemson, and Florida. There's 4. And I just looking at that conference schedule, Phil, is like you're playing East Texas A&M out of conference. You're playing Kent State. I mean, at Virginia, yeah, you probably should win that, but you don't know anything about this team. So I'm taking the over tentatively in this one. I think they can get to 8 wins. But, man, all it's going to take is just a god-awful performance, and everyone is just going to be hammering the under as whatever it is at that time of the season. Because I think there is my confidence meter in this pick is about a 0.5 out of 100. So, Ralph, your thoughts on Florida State when you look at that schedule? And, I mean, who the heck are the Seminoles? I mean, they've got a lot of pieces. Yeah, it's not Castellanos is there. Malzahn's the new OC. But, I mean, I don't even know what to think.
I'm going to go over. I think they get to – I mean, I'm with you, Bryce. I hope because after last year, there's not a lot of hope right now in Tallahassee. I like Malzahn's OC for them. I'm not sure how I feel about it with Castellanos as a quarterback. There's a game at the very end of the year against Gainesville where they might roll you out of the stadium. There's also a chance you get rolled out of your own stadium week 1. There's a lot of things that are going to happen this year to Florida State because they do have a tough schedule because you get Alabama, Miami, Clemson, and Florida in the same year. And all 4 of those teams are on the up and coming for this year. And right now, I really am. I feel bad for them because I think after what happened last year, the transfers that happened in the offseason and not really picking up the right pieces for the season, I just don't know how I feel about them.
Talking about the right pieces, I mean, I love the addition of Squirrel White. I like the addition of Deuce Robinson as a bounce-back candidate here in 2025. Gavin Sawchuk out of Oklahoma. You have the will. I mean, well, you've got the bones of what you would want to run. I guess the skeleton of what you would want to run with, Gus Malzahn. I mean, obviously, you're a guy that's has seen this come to fruition. You know what it looks like. Gavin in the notes said a washed OC and Timu Kyler Murray. I think that's a little harsh, but what your thoughts maybe on Florida State and that over under 7.5?
I'm actually going to take the over. I think Florida State will surprise some people. They might do it week 1 against Alabama. I mean, I said it. I think I said it last week when we talked about Florida State, Mike Norvell under pressure. You got the guy that's not going to shy away from that script A as your offensive coordinator. I'm kind of hinging this kind of hinges on Gus Malzahn understanding that this is his last shot in major college football at being Florida State's offensive coordinator. He is one of the best offensive minds that we've seen of the last 15 years. I don't think that really can be disputed. People will try to argue that with me, but they're just wrong. And when Gus Malzahn is relaxed and can sit back and be creative like he can now more as the offensive coordinator, the Florida State offense has a potential to be a lot of fun. He's got a mobile quarterback, which he really needs. I mean, remember, this is the guy that took a cornerback and won the SEC and went to a national championship game. So the acumen, the knowledge is there, the creativity is there that you want from your offensive coordinator. He gets Gavin Sawchuk from Oklahoma to kind of be that bell cow running back, which he needs in his offense. He needs a physical bell cow guy that he's going to give the ball to 25, 30 times a game. Mm-hmm. Sawchuk can be that guy. He's certainly got the size for it as long as he can stay healthy. And a lot of fun pieces elsewhere on that offense. Deuce Robinson, 6'6" receiver from USC. You mentioned Squirrel White. Those are the two big ones as I'm kind of scrolling through. They get Micah Pettis, offensive tackle coming from Ole Miss, probably going to start on that offensive line for him. So, this kind of hinges on Gus Malzahn getting back to, what he was 15 years ago as an offensive coordinator. I really want to see him go back to that hurry up, no huddle. He's kind of abandoned it. He started to abandon it at Auburn. I think he kind of abandoned it at UCF. If he gets back to that, man, it works, but you got to have the personnel to do it. Hopefully, for my prediction, Florida State does have that personnel on offense. But I'm going to take the over. I think they can get one of these big games, whether it's Alabama at home, Miami at home, at Florida. I think they can get one of those. We've seen them do it before. Maybe they'll go into Clemson and win that game. So, I mean, you look at them on paper, yes, they're probably not as good as those teams, but they got a shot, I think. So I'm going with the over. But I don't see them winning 10 or 11 games.
Johnny says, is Norvell fired if they lose a bowl game? I think if they don't get to one, he is.
Yeah.
I think if they miss a bowl game, he's gone. Because at a program like we talked about this last week, a program like Florida State, like you can't just middle around in nowhere in the middle of nowhere for that long. And they were so bad last year. I don't know. It's interesting. So I'm taking the over, but that is confidence level is like. I mean, I literally said this. It's 0.5 out of 100. So maybe I should just take the under. Heck, I'll do it. Change it. I'm taking the under. That's what I'm going with. And Dennis says if they're 6 and 7, he might. Mr. Alex, he's AFETs in the Discord. That's why I said that. As of right now, I take the under with 4 almost automatic losses. It's hard to assume for me that they just win the rest of the games. Now, there's a lot of unknown, a ton of unknown about the Florida State Seminoles. Okay, well, folks, buckle up because here we go with a program that is near and dear, and Clayton is right on time. There he is. Ralph, come on. The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets over under 7.5 wins. Guys, when we talk about 7.5 wins, we mentioned this on Monday. It is such a hard thing to put money on. That is what we're talking about in this, okay? We're talking about putting money on this, not just how I feel, how my little heart desires, the weather in my heart. Shout out Winshake College program for ruining people's lives. But what we are talking about, what we are talking about, is the ability to say, okay, confidently, I'm putting money on the over. Now, I've been pretty vocal and had a show 2 weeks ago about the fact that I think Georgia Tech is a lot like Duke. Like they are a contender to leave the middle of the pack in the ACC. They are a contender to be in Charlotte if things break right. I'm going to save my pick for last year, though, just because for dramatic effect. The thing, I mean, you all know kind of what I like about this team, my concerns with this team, so I want to let y'all go first. That being said, Ralph, you take it away first. Georgia Tech over under 7.5 wins. We know we talk about this team a lot, but I think there's some questions, and it's fair to ask the questions. Not for some people, but it is.
Yes, it should be an over. I have the over because it should be. You win 7 games last year. You bring in some good transfers. You bring some guys back, especially your 14-year quarterback and your 5-year running back. It feels like. you should win more than 7 games. I mean, if you don't,
Throw
those rings in the trash can, honestly.
Oh,
but all seriously, you got a quarterback that has played for the last 2 years for you, Haynes King. Obviously, was banged up a lot last year, and I know we don't like to talk about it. A lot of these guys won't want to hear it. Can you trust him throwing the ball downfield right now? Because he didn't have to last year.
mm-hmm.
A lot of run design, quarterback design runs, a lot of short passes for him. The occasional time he aired it out, it's a chance of getting intercepted. You saw that 2 years ago, the 15 interceptions. So you have to watch out for what this offense is going to be like this year, because you lose Eric Singleton. You lose a lot of your offensive line, or with Jackson Hall's blocking. I think that's a huge loss for them.
Yeah.
Defensively, you picked up some good guys, some good depth, but you lost one of your best players, Romello Height. I think they got some really good depth on linebacker. And I think EJ Lightsey and Taj Butler are the 2 best players on the defense, at least in the front 7 right now. Those should be your linebackers this year. If I had to watch another season of Kyle Eford, I'm gonna vomit. I really am. I'm seriously, Bryce. I know people don't want to hear it. I cannot watch that neck pad roll out there and struggle again. He cannot move. He is a cinder block out there. I'm just being honest.
I just want to say this publicly for Kyle Eford's dad that approached me at the clean old fashioned hate. I didn't say it this time. I didn't say it.
If he wants to approach me at the clean old fashioned hate, which I won't be there, but hey, I'm sorry. Welcome to real life sometimes. Look, I still think this team's really good. They should win 8 games. They should win 9 games. They have a straight shot for Charlotte, but they're not going to. I feel like if they go out there and there's some games that they should win, they're going to roll over and somehow screw it up. I mean, there's some games last year. They should not have lost to Virginia Tech last year. They played one of the worst games last year against Virginia Tech. I know they didn't have a quarterback, but they knew that going into that game, they should have prepared better with that. I think you saw what Philo did last year was better in backup than what Pyron did. You should have known that before you went into that game. Your defense played awful, and I just think they slipped up, and I think they should win 8 or 9 games this year. So I'm not even going to the schedule. I'm not even going to talk about the schedule.
Will, your thoughts?
I'm going to go with the over, but it's very close. I mean, I look at the schedule and I see eight games that you should win. Possibility for 9 that you could win, but I don't see more than 9. For a couple reasons. I'm going to ask the questions. People aren't going to like this, but I'm going to ask the questions. Number one, I worry about the health of Haynes King. You can't plan for injuries. You can't predict injuries. I know that, but he's been hurt every year he's played college football. I mean, that's just the reality. And as much as the offense relies on Haynes King, Aaron Philo is not the same quarterback, not the same athlete, right? So the offense is going to have to look different.
At this juncture, he's not.
Yes.
Could he be good, really good? Yes.
Yes. But right now, they're not the same. So the offense is going to look a lot different. And we've seen in the past when you have 2 different type of athletes playing quarterback, one goes down, your offense looks completely different mid-season. And no, Alex, that's not what I'm doing. Sorry, I looked at the comments because Bryce started laughing. Offenses, they struggle mid-season when you have a quarterback change, especially a drastic one like this one would be, just based off the athlete you're putting there. A lot of really, really good players leaving in the portal. Eric Singleton, obviously. Corey Robinson off that offensive line going to Arkansas. There was another one. Romello Height going to Texas Tech. Can you replace them? I mean, those are like all ACC level players, right? Maybe all American level players. Can you replace them? That's a big question mark. Can you replace them? But the team has it under Brent Key. Whatever the moxie, whatever you want to call it, they've got it.
Yeah.
They've got the secret sauce. I think at times we saw it last year that Tech kind of plays above what's expected of them, or above what you think they could be. Can they do it over a whole season and get more than 7.5 wins? I think they can. But I'm going to go with 8. I don't see more than 8 or 9 wins. The schedule is on paper easier, but again, we've seen it before. The ACC, I think we kind of saw it last year, is kind of the opposite of what we thought it would be, and for a lot of teams. So, just I think this will be a fun year for Georgia Tech. I really do. I think 8 or 9 wins. They've got that secret sauce that you can't put a metric on. This team plays for Brent Key. There's no doubt about it. They're going to play hard for 4 quarters, and just doing that probably wins you 1 or 2 games that you would probably lose if you didn't have it. So I'm taking the over.
All right, I'm going to provide some pushback here a little bit for both of you. Going back to that Virginia Tech game, the defense didn't play terrible. The offense was god-awful. They couldn't move the football, which made the defense look worse than it was. And then the All-American comment of Romello Height is a bit much, I think. Eric Singleton can play to that caliber of player. Coy Robinson, all ACC, I would give consideration. But I think what you've lost in those 3 guys is you've lost high floor players that you have grown to expect what they're going to give you. And the unknown is what comes in, right? I mean, look, Ronald Triplett from UTSA really hasn't been a high productive player in his career. So you don't know, it's not like you're adding a guy from a lower level that was uber productive. That's why I've been more of a fan of Braden Manley, the kid out of Mercer, who was one of the best defensive players in the FCS last year. That's someone to get more excited about, I think, even though there is a jump. Malachi Hosley there, you want to think that he provides, and to your point earlier, Will, about Georgia Tech, you have to have a running back too. You have to have a guy that can, and I'm not talking about someone that you can just put on the depth chart. When I say that, I mean, you have to have that's actually a feared option from opposing defenses if you're going to make it to Charlotte. And so it can't, to your point, it can't just be Jamal Haynes and Haynes King. And that's a question I have mentioned multiple times. I like Eric Rivers and the potential that he has. Dean Patterson, I like him too. I just think early in the season, you're going to have to reestablish fear where you wouldn't have if you had Eric Singleton. And what does that mean? Teams have to expect different spacing things. They got to expect, this guy can beat you there. And not that they're not going to watch film of what he did at FIU, but I think it's more of the fact that you just have a guy in Eric Rivers that you think is going to be able to be that for you. So it's a lot of we think. I'm also going to say, this too with this. I think when you look at this schedule for Georgia Tech, if you just took the 2 big ones, right, and you said, okay, those were losses, and I'm not saying they, are going to be losses, but if you just lost to Clemson and Duke, or Clemson and Georgia, I'm sorry, not Duke, but if you lost to Clemson and Georgia, and you said, okay, 10-2, and then you started to work down from there, guys, I think that you have almost 7 toss-up games, and it's very difficult to win all of your toss-up games. Not impossible. It's just kind of hard to do that. So, I think that they can go on the road and beat Colorado. I think they can obviously take care of business against Gardner-Webb, Temple. They should be able to beat Wake Forest like we talked about. They should be able to beat Virginia Tech at home, Syracuse, and Pitt. But I just don't think it's a foregone conclusion. And I think that this comment right here perfectly embodies kind of where the fan base is that, it also means that we could surprise teams at the beginning as well. 110%. You've also got to look at the other edge of the coin there and say it could not work immediately, and that could pose a challenge for Buster Faulkner and this offensive staff and Chris Winkie to work through. So I think it's really just kind of 2 edges of the coin. What version's going to show up? Because I think it can be a really good season. I think there is a world where you can end up in Charlotte. I think there is a world where, and this isn't a hot take, it just is what it is. If you end up in Charlotte, there's also a chance you're in the playoff, if you win that thing. So all those things, saying all those things, I'm taking the over here. I think they can get to 8 wins. I just don't think it's as well, we're better at this, because you have to allow yourself to look at other teams where they feel like they've gotten better. It is what it is. So I don't know, man. I think that this team has some serious potential, like the potential to win 10 games, but I also think they have to show that they can play consistent level football over the course of 12, 13 to 14 weeks. That is the biggest bugaboo I think about Georgia Tech ever since Key has taken over, is just getting to a point where you're playing at a consistent level. If they do that, they can find themselves in Charlotte. They find themselves in the thick of the playoff race. If they don't, then they're going to sit down into that middle tier of the conference for another year. So we're all taking the over on Georgia Tech's win total. I think it can be a really, really good season. One thing I'll tell you, though, I think it wouldn't shock me if they went like 7-5 or like 6-6. It just wouldn't blow me away. Anything below that, though, would shock me. That's something. It wouldn't be good. I think is the best way to put that. So we'll see. We'll see. Tech also gets zero benefit of the doubt. I don't really understand what that means.
You have to earn the benefit of the doubt. You got to earn it. I mean, like we've talked about some teams. Like Clemson. Clemson's earned getting the benefit of the doubt. That Dabo Swinney, his coaching staff, they've kind of earned it, right? Those toss-up games, you lean Clemson, more than you would lean Georgia Tech right now in a toss-up game.
Yeah. Well, and it's part of the brand. It's part of all this kind of stuff. They just earned that. People are like, why does that team always rank? Well, because they've earned it, whether it's through on the play field, the brand value, or just the money they spend. They've earned the benefit of the doubt there. So Georgia Tech doesn't have the luxury of that. So I think maybe that is maybe the kind of the downfall of it. All right, that's the Yellow Jackets. We're going to take a quick break. When we do come back, we're going to continue to roll through the rest of the conference. And, man, stay tuned. Like the video, and we'll catch you, I guess, back here in about 60 seconds or so.
Hey, everyone. Bryce Koon here with the Crowded Booth, and I'm excited to partner with Milton and Drew McCluskey as they get on their new venture, the Cajun Cousins Company. It's an all-stop shop for some of the best food and atmosphere entertainment that you're going to be able to have, especially this fall as college football is right around the corner. What is Cajun Cousins Company? Well, Milt decided to start this business back in Columbia, South Carolina. That's where they're based out of. Drew initially joined him after spending some time with the Saints, but they offer catered Cajun delicacies such as crawfish boils and Aunt Dottie's jambalaya. They bring everything and they can set up anywhere. Look, folks, they're passionate about giving people a reason to gather and to get to the culture that they love so much. They're expanding that brand to the low country of South Carolina, the upstate area, and other areas of the Southeast. So look, if you're going to throw that tailgate party or you're going to have a big gathering, reach out to Cajun Cousins Company today over at CajunCousinsCO.com to get that quote. Tell them the Crowded Booth sent you. We can't wait to see what they have in store this fall.
All right, we're back here on the Crowded Booth talking ACC football here on a Wednesday evening. We got to keep trucking along through the conference, and it takes us up to the Louisville area in Kentucky, where, man, one of my favorite coaches in the entire college football world, Jeff Brom, continues to do a lot with not as much. But the thing is, Louisville's got a little bit more than they may have had before he got there. Louisville continuing to spin in the transfer portal. The over-under set by our friends over at BetOnline at 8.5 wins. Guys, it's kind of crazy when you think about Louisville last year. They were a little bit chaotic. They were a team that was within 7 points of Notre Dame, SMU, and Miami. They just, a couple plays here and there, couldn't come up with it, and could have been the real big difference makers. But then they go beat Clemson in that Death Valley version, which is crazy. But then they lose to Stanford. So a very topsy-turvy team last year that enters 2025 with a new quarterback at the helm, Miller Moss. I've kind of said this. I think in terms of raw talent, this is probably the most talented quarterback that Jeff Brom has had at Louisville. I did like Tyler Shuck, but I do think, and that's just a shout-out for the Saints people, I do think that, Brom has a guy where he could be rocking and rolling. But I am going to buy the stock in Jeff Brom in Louisville for a third straight year, and I'm taking the over. I think when you look at that schedule, you got to go win a game that maybe you can't or can on paper, but there's some toss-up games like at Miami, Clemson, at SMU, but we'll see what happens. I like the over in this. I think Louisville could have a really nice year in terms of what they have. I like Miller Moss at the quarterback position, especially getting a change of scenery, the way that Jeff Brom has dealt with those types of situations. So I'm high on Louisville this year. Will, I'll start with you in this one. I mean, your thoughts on Jeff Brom in another year in the ACC?
Yeah, I think Jeff Brom has quickly risen up the ranks of as far as ACC head coaches up there. Anywhere between 2 through 4, I think you could place him. But I'm actually going to disagree with you. I'm going to take the under. But I think they get right at 8 wins. I think they can still have a really nice season and be 8-4. I agree with you that Miller Moss probably the most talented quarterback he's had, but what he's shown has not impressed me all that much. Does not give me a lot of confidence that he can go on the road into Miami and win, or into Dallas and win at SMU. Even, dare I say, go into Blacksburg, Virginia, and beat Virginia Tech, because that place is rocking. I mean, you give Virginia Tech a couple wins going into that game, it makes a huge difference, that environment. But Louisville, they're going to be fun to watch. They're going to be a good team again. But I can't confidently say that they're going to get to nine wins. So I'm taking the under.
Yeah, I think. I mean, the good news is that Gavin's not user controlling Bowling Green on September the 20th, so you should be able to win that game. No, I see you. I see you there in that. Ralph, 8.5 wins is a lot. Over under. Where are you splitting this one?
I'm going under because I think they get to 8 wins. I just think they hit right there at the line and they don't pass it. I'm with you that this is the most talented quarterback he's ever had. If there's anything about Louisville, it's one of the safest things to do is take them for over a 6-win season with Jeff Brom at the helm as head coach, because he's going to find a way to make some below average quarterback become a good quarterback. And this team's going to compete in almost every single game they go out there and play on Saturday. We saw it 2 years ago with Plummer at quarterback, week 1 when they played Georgia Tech in Atlanta. And we thought this team was down at halftime and made a comeback in the second half and won that game. He has done it the last 2 seasons with just okay quarterbacks. And, this is the year that Miller Moss was a 4-star, 5-star quarterback out of high school. Really good talent. We thought he was going to be the next USC, great quarterback. Didn't turn out well. Obviously, there's some problems there for him. And I mean, I like this team. I like Louisville in the past. I've always kind of had a thing for Louisville. Go back to before Lamar Jackson days. When they lined up Lamar Jackson as a backup quarterback against Auburn in
16.
Was it 16? Yeah. So I'm for them going under, but it's like they're going 8-4. But it's a good 8-4. It's not a lackluster 8-4. It's a tough schedule for them. And I think they lose a game they shouldn't lose. I think, like you said, the Virginia Tech will. I'm full behind that one. Going to Blacksburg, Virginia Tech's got 6 wins right there. It's loud. It's rocking. So
Louisville, 8.5. I take the over. The other two fellas are taking the under. Another ACC contender. Going to be another playoff team that or a team that people are going to talk about for the playoff. I think through the early portion of the season, I think they could start off 5-0. Being completely real. And then I think that for me is where you look at the back half of the schedule and you kind of say, okay, can you find 4 more? I think you can win at BC, at Virginia Tech, at Cal, and can you pick off, obviously, one of Miami, Clemson, SMU, and Kentucky? If you can do that, there's your path to 9-3. All right, next team up, here we go, rolling through down to Coral Gables. A team, fellas, that, man, you just talk about a lot of fanfare around this team perennially. This is a team in Miami. Carson Beck at the helm. They've had to replace some key pieces. They've got a schedule that sees them play Florida. Obviously, they're in week number 3. Got the buys, 2 buys in the first 5 to 6 weeks, which is really weird. But all those things considered, man, they're going to play Louisville. They're going to go to SMU. Is this a team in Miami that finally gets over the hump and heads to the ACC title game? I'll never forget, we looked up in the stands last year and saw a couple Miami fans sitting in the front row in Charlotte, and you could just kind of tell they were like, yeah, we know. We decided to come anyways and spend the in the cold. I will tell you this though. I think 5 of the first 8 games on the schedule could be losses. Like I think I don't know. Like I think that 5 of the first games on this schedule you are not given wins. I should say. I think you could lose to Notre Dame. I think you could lose to Florida. I think you could lose to Florida State.
Bethune-Cookman, yes, I agree.
Mercer put belt to something there a couple years ago and last year in the playoff. Louisville, I think you lose to, and I think you lose to SMU. So I think that's 4 games there. And this hinges a lot on Carson Beck, right? I think Carson Beck gets an unfair rap because he wasn't great last year, but he wasn't bad. I think it's a lot of the drama surrounding the situation at Georgia and maybe not fitting in with what they wanted to do there in terms of the mindset. So the Hurricanes at 8.5, I will tell you this. When I look at this, I think that they can go 9-3. I am going to take the under, and I'm going to go 8-4 with Miami, missing out on their playoff and kind of a plateau for Mario Cristobal and company there in Coral Gables. So, Ralph, we'll start with you here. The Hurricanes, looking at that schedule, where do you go?
I'm going under. I think you talked about the most talented team Miami's had. That was last year. 100% last year. Cam Ward was by far the greatest quarterback Cristobal is going to have, unless they find someone in the next few years at a high school. But turn him into number 1 overall pick. He was a no-star athlete out of high school. Obviously, he had some really good years in college, but last year was one of those outstanding seasons by him. Obviously, had Xavier Restrepo at receiver. Had a really good run game. The defense is it was okay at sometimes, but the offense was amazing. I don't see it this year. I don't have Miami winning 8 games this year. I'm going 7. There's just some games there's some teams I want their payback. I think they look like I think Florida is one of them. They played last year, and Florida was really just down on themselves beginning of the year, and they struggled in that game. I think this year, I think Florida's going for it. They're going to take them. They're going to take them down in Miami this year, and I have them going 7 wins this year. I don't think they can hit 8. If they hit 8, congratulations. But that 7-5 is a real eyesight for them right now because, like I said, Carson Beck's still a good quarterback, but Miami does not really surround him with the talent I think he needs to succeed like he had at Georgia the last few years. So, yeah, you got to relate. You got CJ Daniels. You saw a lot of him last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what he's capable of. I saw it in person for 1 game. It wasn't much to say because it was South Alabama, and Caden Durham had ran for 300 yards in 3 plays. Yeah, but I just don't think they gave him enough help. I think offensively to help out Carson Beck to help this team win 9-10 games like they want to.
Defensively, I'm interested to kind of see what they have on the field. I think
that secondary is completely new.
Yeah, Poisier is a pretty good football player that I think is going to be fun to watch. You mentioned C.J. Daniels there. Alex Ballman, the tight end from Tulane, is a really effective weapon that he could utilize. And Carson Beck is going to look for the tight end in Coral Gables. Will, over under 8.5 wins, is that just too much? I mean, what when you look at this, are you hammering the over?
I'm taking the over. I think Chris Ball is going to finally get over the hump this year. I think we're looking at 9 or 10 wins. Like Gavin says, Miami to Charlotte confirmed. I think you finally get over the hump. They get in that ACC title game. I think on paper they might be better than 10 or 11 teams on their schedule on paper. I think Carson Beck is really, really good. I think I disagree with Ralph. I think he's in a better offense now than he was at Georgia. Georgia's wide receiver group last year was just like a disaster. I mean, it was not Power 4 level. I don't think for the most part. They certainly didn't play like it. Talent may have been there, but they didn't play like it. So I think Carson Beck will bounce back, although the drama has followed him to Miami off the field. But alongside C.J. Daniels, they bring in Keelan Marion from BYU to catch passes from him. They get some help on the offensive line with James Brockermeyer. He's kind of not been great in college, but I think he was a 5-star. He and his twin brother, were they both 5 stars? High 4 stars or 5 stars. So the talent is certainly there. Ralph talked about the secondary. I think the secondary is going to be really good. And outside of one former Auburn player, but I don't have to get into that. Xavier Lucas coming from Wisconsin at corner. Zachariah Poyser, you talked about. I think he's a dog. He might be the best player in this secondary. They bring in Ethan O'Connor, cornerback from Washington State. Charles Brantley, another corner from Michigan State. I think they're going to be really good on the back end. They get help on the defensive line too with David Blay from Louisiana Tech. It seemed like everybody was in on David Blay, and Miami talks him into coming there. They still got Reuben Bain, going to cause a lot of problems in the backfield on the edge. It's the same thing we say, I think, every year. If not now, when for Miami? And I'm kind of still thinking that. I think Cristobal finally gets over the hump. I think they're going to get to Charlotte this year.
They've also got a right tackle that's going to be possibly a day one pick, and Mr. Francis. They've got good talent. I'm taking them at 8 wins. That's where I'm going with them. Ralph's going with 7. Will, you're going over. It could happen, man. I mean, it could. It does feel like an opportunity. Mark Fletcher Jr. at the running back position is going to give them some flexibility to do a lot of different things. Jordan Lyle over there is 2. And then obviously Charmar Brown, the transfer that they brought in, is a talented young man too. So Miami has the tools to do it. I kind of like that we're all 3 in different places with this, because it kind of shows, I guess, who Miami is as a program. Do you believe they finally get over the hump this year, or is it? Kind of being said, though, man, Carson Beck is still a really good quarterback, and last year was just kind of tough. You have to have some really good weapons around him, and well, obviously time will tell if those are the weapons. All right, fellas, we're going to kind of speed through a couple of these teams. Let's just go ahead and knock out the boys over at here, Ralph. I got this one. Wake Forest, over under 4.5 wins. Just real quick, I don't know what you guys have to say about this. Brand new head coach for the Demon Deacons, complete rebuilding year for Wake Forest and what they have going on.
Who's quarterback?
Oh, is it Robbie Ashford, Will?
He's there, but that doesn't mean he's going to play.
I don't know who else I got. I'm going over 4.5 because I think you win the first 2 games easily, and I think you win that game against Delaware in there. And you know what? You might find one against NC State, Virginia Tech, Virginia.
Well,
I'm going the over 2. New head coach.
Robbie Ashford's going to have a Heisman caliber year.
No.
No.
I mean, I'm going to take the over, but I think it's like 5 and 7. I mean, no more than 5 or 6 wins. I think new head coach, new energy, just a new era. Going to bring in a few wins for Wake Forest, but not a ton.
And I want to correct myself, not a total rebuild year for Wake Forest. I mean, Jake Diggert he's a good football coach, and I just don't know how much success he's going to have immediately. You talk about that schedule real quick. I mean, they should beat Delaware, the newest FBS member over there in the Conference USA. They should beat Western Carolina. They should beat Kennesaw State. That gets you to 3. Can you pick off somebody else? I think that is really, where it is. I think you could go beat Virginia,
Our Lads has Robbie Ashford starting.
We'll see.
The back would be Deshaun Purdy, which
former Charlotte 49er. So Wake Forest, I'll take the over. I'll give them 5. We all give them 5 and move along and wish the Demon Deacons well. All right, another one that I want to quickly hit is the Stanford Cardinal, 3.5. This is either going to go down as a really, really good fundamental change in college football with the GM calling the shots now and Andrew Luck, which I actually really, really like that idea, by the way, of the GM kind of making more football business decisions than anyone else. But when you look at Stanford and you try to make sense of what's going on there, they fired Troy Taylor, by the way, pending internal investigation, pending, rumored scandals of going on. I think this football program is a complete flux. They literally are just going to have an acting coach in Frank Wright here in 2025, which is a nightmare for recruiting. That is a nightmare. Like, guys literally don't know who they're signing up for. They lost guys in the portal in the spring.
I don't know how much of a disaster it is because Stanford's doing things so differently than everybody else. I mean, if Andrew Luck is calling the shots and running this thing, how involved can he be in recruiting? I think that is really my question. I mean, it's just so different. I mean, it's hard for me to say that it's just such an utter disaster.
I'm taking the under.
I'm taking the under.
Hawaii and San Jose State I think is their wins, and they might pick off somebody else. I think this is bad. They lost a lot of talent in the post spring portal. Under. Will Ralph, you gonna make it 3 in a row?
Yeah, because I think they lose to Hawaii for one. I think you start the season off 0-4, dude. You go to Hawaii, you lose to BYU, you lose Boston College, you lose Virginia. You might be San Jose State. You might win one game this year.
And they finished the season hosting Notre Dame,
which is then going to be an absolute barn burner. It's 12 o'clock kickoff.
No,
I'm calling my shot now. 3-2. Stanford's going to beat Notre Dame.
I'm throwing up in my mouth already. It's coming out of my ears. All right, Virginia, over under 6.5 wins, just firmly in the hot seat. Virginia has been such a drag on college football in the ACC over the past couple of years. It's a program where the ACC and college football are better when the Virginia schools are good. And Tony Elliott has been. I think this is the year Tony Elliott is done.
Fired.
I think that he's on the hot seat. He is 4-19, by the way, as an underdog with an average margin of defeat of 11.6 points per game in those situations. That's a stat to put there for you. Chandler Morris is going to be the quarterback, which he was good last year for North Texas. It gives them some experience, but I'm taking the under at 5.5 or 6.5 wins. I think they could get to 5, maybe 4. I think they beat William and Mary. I think they can beat Coastal, Stanford, and Washington State. After that, I don't know. They're going to have to play outside of themselves, and I think Tony Elliott will be looking for a new job. And Virginia will be one of those teams looking for a new head coach. So I'm taking the under on the Cavaliers. Ralph, real quick, over under. What you think?
Under. I think they win 4.
Will.
Under. I can't believe it's a 6.5. Also,
I was shot by 2. Don't worry.
I didn't know that William and Mary could keep that nickname.
What's their nickname?
Oh boy.
Tribe.
All right, so moving on to the next team.
I don't know how that slipped through the cracks.
We've talked Stanford, thank God. We've talked Virginia and Wake Forest. Let's kind of get back to, I guess, the teams that are relevant in this conference. And let's go back.
Yeah, we're talking about relevant. You forgot Pitt in the irrelevant category.
Pitt. So we hated on Pitt, and there's a YouTuber out there that really let us know it there in social media last year. And what did Pitt do? They started off 7-0. They didn't win another game. Shout out to the Ponies for putting a stop to that in Dallas. Eli Holstein is back and was really good for them. And I will tell you this, I really, really, really like Coach Bell, Cade Bell, the OC there. I think he's innovative. I think he's a guy that's going to be a hot commodity on the coaching market if he puts up another good year along with Holstein there. I'll be real with you, though, about Pitt, man. I'm kind of nervous that the book is out a little bit. How do they adjust to what you saw through the first 7 games there? We talked about lost 6 straight. And, I think the key, though, I'll say this is to hitting this over, is you got to go beat West Virginia. I think that's a game where it can put some faith in the fan base. It can put some faith in this program to kind of where they're going. I think it's a coin flip game, but man, if you can do and knock off your big rival and Rich Rod's, I guess, second go around over there in Morgantown, if you could do that, I think that inspires some confidence. That being said, at 5.5, I'm going to take the over. I think they get to 6. Some combination of winning their non-conference games like West Virginia I talked about, and then maybe knocking off like a Boston College, NC State, Stanford. And, you could just steal one on the road against Florida State or Georgia Tech or Syracuse. It could go higher. I'm sitting with over at 5.5 wins. I guess as quickly as you want to go through this, Will, what do you got on the Pitt Panthers?
I'm taking under. I'm like you. I'm afraid the book is out. Obviously this hinges on the health of Eli Holstein, but they went 7-5 last year, and they've got a harder schedule this year. They played Notre Dame, they played Miami. I think they missed both of them last year. I don't see them going into Morgantown and beating West Virginia. So I'm going under. I think their ACC schedule's not real nice to them either. They got to go to the flats in late November. That's going to be they might have a new coach by then.
Ralph, over under Pitt, 5.5.
I'm going under. I think I get 5. But they have an easy win week 2. I will say that. especially if I'm coaching for
And Ralph's disgraced tenure up in Chippewa country.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. Go back through them. NC State, Dave Doran, 6.5 win is the over-under win total for the Wolfpack. A disappointing year, guys. I think we were kind of high on NC State, thinking that Grayson McCall, one of the more accomplished, if not the most accomplished quarterback at the Group of Five level in recent history, had done a really, really good job. Concussions obviously knock him out. They lose Casey Concepcion, which just is brutal, I think. They lose Jordan Poole, who's actually still in the portal there as well. Brandon Sissy left. Marcus Cooley, who's down here in Baton Rouge now. They lose some pretty good players. And I just don't know if they added enough impact here. It's going to be a lot of internal development, and it begs the question, is Dave Doran still a top coach? I think that's the big question here. Is he still a guy that gets a lot out of a little? So with NC State, for me, when I look at this, fellas, over under at 6.5 wins, CJ Bailey's development is key here. It's paramount to any type of success they're going to have. He's a good athlete, but man, when you look at this schedule, and I was going through kind of NC State's schedule and looking at some of the matchups that they have, I think you got some road games where you look at it and you're like, God, can they steal a game? I mean, you look at the first couple games, East Carolina, who's not really a pushover G5 team by any stretch of means in the American Conference, Virginia, Wake Forest on the road that you're going to go and play. You could win that one. You go to Duke, which I kind of think is a sneaky game, but for especially for NC State, if you go win that game, kind of maybe reset some expectations. But at Notre Dame, at Pitt, you're going to host Rotate. You got to go to Miami, and then you round it out obviously with Florida State and UNC. The road schedule kind of makes me nervous, but 6.5 makes me nervous. Guys, I'm going to take the under in this one. I think NC State sits right at 6 wins, gets to a bowl game, and it'll be interesting. Is there change coming in Raleigh? Because as an athletic department, we all know what they did on the basketball side of things, right? Hiring the big gun and Will Wade, pouring some money in that program. As revenue sharing happens, I think this is a program that if they don't get enough fundraising to where they want to be with the other North Carolina schools, is it just going to be one of those things where we can't really put more resources into football? That basketball is going to be our main focus. I'm going the under here, and Dave Doran might keep his job in that scenario. So I'm taking that. Will, Wolfpack, Dave Doran, we've done a lot with a little. One of those coaches that we like in the ACC, but interesting year upcoming for the Wolfpack.
Yeah, I'm taking the under. I think huge losses in the portal that they couldn't replace. Like you said, they're leaning on development, which Dave Doran has proven that he can get the job done in that department, at least on the defensive side. I worry about CJ Bailey's development like you. I'm going to take the under. And you look at this schedule, it has the potential to get ugly, really ugly for NC State. But I'm taking the under.
Ralph, Wolfpack, CJ Bailey, dynamic young player, but man, I feel like they're going to really have to rely on him with some of the guys that they lost.
I'm going over.
Oh,
and because for one, I was one last year who was high on him. I had the hand up situation over here. I was me. But all the disaster of last year with losing Grayson McCall to, the offense kind of being lackluster, they still found a way to win 6 games and get to a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
I think with a full year with CJ Bailey getting some work in, some development in, this team can mess around and win 7 games. Mess around. I mean, you said there's some road games they can go and win. Like Duke is one I think they can go in there, catch Duke on a bad night, and CJ Bailey just run around and win a game. I truly think that's possible. Same with the Pitt game, and you get Virginia Tech at home, Virginia at home, and then your rival in North Carolina. We're not entirely sure what they're going to be like this year. That's a whole brand new system, and that's got a lot of good stuff going on inside their program. So, I'm not going to sleep on NC State again. I'm not saying they're going to win 9 games, but they could mess around, win 6, and then go and win, a bowl game.
The Wolfpack. We go to another program, man, in the state of North Carolina that is And way too much drama surrounding it.
Way too much.
Way too much. Regardless how you feel about having girlfriends around the program, I cover a program fiance. I've covered a program that had that issue a couple years back as well. But North Carolina over under 7.5 wins. Look, I think when you look at North Carolina and you say, okay, like what is the realistic expectation for the Bill Belichick era? Is that I think on paper, the good news is that the schedule sets up to where you're able to stack some wins potentially. Like you're able to look at it and say, okay, you can, win a game right off the bat against TCU potentially that kind of kicks off the era and it gets people going. It makes people look excited, Labor Day night there against TCU. You've got two opponents within, one in your state, one just kind of right up the road in Virginia that you should start off, regardless. And then kind of a weird, tricky one in Orlando. Man, you get the bye week before Clemson. You come out of that, you face Cal, Virginia. Like, I think when you look at this, you're like, okay, they can make a bowl game. But what to me kind of pushes this from can they just make a bowl game to can they hit the over? And Gavin did a good job of this. Was you kind of look at like they had a pretty sneaky good portal on paper.
Hey! No! That was me.
That was you. Okay, well, good job. Hats off. Sneaky good portal there on paper with just some of the names that they brought in, kind of filling some of those holes. Quarterback to me is just going to be an interesting conversation about really who's going to be the de facto guy over the course of 12 games. That being said, did the over-under change the last time we did this? We got 7.5 on the screen. On the notes, we've got 6.5. If it's 7.5, I'm taking the under.
It's 7.5 on Bet Online.
Okay, then I'm going under. I was going to go over because I was going to give them 7 wins. I think a 7-5 season is where I kind of sit with North Carolina. We'll see what that means for them. But, yeah, the Tar Heels, Bill Belichick, just kind of this weird feeling in Chapel Hill. But, yeah, I don't know. Ralph, your thoughts on Bill Belichick in North Carolina?
Yeah, so I was kind of looking through this roster, and right now they got Gio Lopez as a starting quarterback. They got Jay Johnson at tight end. Max Johnson, who knows what's going to be with him. I'm going to go – they're going to go under. I get 7 wins. Look, Bill Belichick's the greatest coach in NFL history. College football is a different demon. There's a lot more going on. I think he has a tough one, week 1 against TCU. But I think he rattles off 3 straight wins going into, Clemson week, the bye week into Clemson. And, can you get up enough at home game to rally the troops, rally the fans to maybe give them a scare? I don't know. That's not really Bill Belichick's thing. He's not really the guy who's going to rally a team. He's just kind of always did his thing. And, the guy's just kind of like, we lead by example situation where he just kind of, he's the brunt face, always doesn't really smile, and he goes out there and he coaches the best game ever. So, but this defense is going to be great. I truly believe this defense is going to be fun to watch. Years and years watching him coach the Patriots and lead one of some of the best defenses out there, and had obviously the greatest quarterback of all time with them. But I think he hits 7 wins, make a bowl game. That's a big plus for them this year after the last few years with Mac Brown at coach. So I'm interested to see what they do. He's obviously got a weird coaching style, but I think it helps him out a lot.
Well, when you look at the rosters and the teams they're going to face outside of Clemson, there's probably not a team that has like a significant talent advantage against them. I mean, you can argue, here and there, but in terms of like, oh my gosh, like you get off the bus and the team just different. TCU maybe. What are your thoughts on this? Because I think this could kind of go either way, where you don't really know early in the season. There's a lot of kind of feeling out process early in the season about what Bill Belichick is at North Carolina. And then maybe they go on a run or they go on a slide to end the season. I kind of feel like it's just going to be a very interesting data point to kind of look at in the 2025 season. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not sure that there's another roster that's better. on their schedule other than Clemson. I'm not convinced. I think y'all got it wrong. We're talking about probably the greatest football coach of all time. At the end of the day, it's still football, and I can pull a ton of data points for you. Coaches obviously going the other direction, college to the NFL, but like those national championship, those Super Bowl winning coaches, Jimmy Johnson dominating in college and going to do it at the NFL. It's just it's football at the end of the day. This guy knows football probably better than maybe every other head coach that's on the schedule. He's seen every situation. He's coached in much bigger games than any coach on his schedule. So none of these games he's going to be worried about. He's not going to flinch at any of these games. And yeah, he may not be a big rah-rah guy, but he's going to get his team up to play. And I think now with Bill Belichick as the head coach, I think these players, if they don't understand it yet, they'll understand it quickly that if you're at North Carolina, you're about business. Yeah. Like you're here to win and you're here to get to the NFL, and you have possibly the best coach in the country to get you ready for the NFL. Like you're probably gonna train harder than you might when you get to the NFL playing for Bill Belichick. So, and I think players, they probably, this is a huge assumption, but you would think that they got to know what they're signing up for. And this is what they're signing up for. I'm taking the over. I think they're going to lean on that defense and they're going to find ways to win. And, he brings his son, Steve Belichick, who was the defense coordinator at Washington. He had a really good defense last year at Washington. Yeah. So he's studied these college offenses. He knows how to stop them. And Ralph talked about the personnel. They had a great portal class defensively at all three levels of the defense. They are significantly better on that side of the ball. So I'm going to take the over. I think they're going to win 9 or 10 games.
Ooh, challenging for Charlotte potentially. It could happen. Interesting data points, obviously, to kind of watch where they are. So we'll see. All right, rolling through as we kind of get to the final 3 teams, actually. And, we'll save, Virginia Tech for last here. We'll go SMU over under 8.5 wins. Now, look.
Over. Lock it in.
You don't have to live under a rock to know where the ponies sit in our heart, right? Rhett Lashley is 16-0 in conference games across the last 2 regular season. I think there's a lot to think of when you really dive into this SMU program. And guys, we saw it up close, and we really probably need to do a longer episode on how we feel about SMU and our takeaways from that trip. But last year was cool, but I think this is more than a flash in the pan. I think that SMU is a team that can contend year in, year out for the college football playoff. Kevin Jennings is back. We'll speak to it as much as we can. Retaining him, wasn't necessarily easy, but retaining him is a massive, massive thing they're able to do. I think when you look at this at 8.5 wins, I'm taking the over, but here's the contingent. You got to split those Big 12 games, the Baylor and the TCU. If you can at least split those, I think they can contend to go to Charlotte. I think they'll be in and around the conversation. I've got them winning 9 games right now. Going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how SMU does in year 2. They're not going to surprise a lot of people. They did have to rebuild some things, but they feel like they had a pretty good portal cycle with what they were able to bring in. Following up 2024 is going to be a big piece of this, but we talked about what they lost. You just look at the running back position. Rashard Smith off to the NFL. They bring in Chris Johnson Jr. So you hope you can duplicate or at least replicate kind of what you lost at that running back position. So it's a coaching staff that they're really excited about. Guys, we were in and around that program for 2 days over there in Dallas back in April. They like what they have in that building, and they're very confident about what they can do in this conference. They're not just a flash in the pan. So I like SMU here. I'm taking the over at 8.5. We'll start with you on this one. How do you feel about the ponies, and are the Stangs gonna challenge for a playoff spot here again in 2025?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going with the over. You like how the schedule lines up. A lot of their harder games are at home. Miami, they get them at home. Louisville, they get at home. They really the games you're worried about when they have to go on the road is Clemson and TCU, and I'm really not even worried about TCU, and I'm not really worried about Baylor either. Just for what it means, and like you said, we were around that program, got to talk to some folks. They want those two games against Baylor and TCU about as bad as any other ACC game on their schedule because of that pride of being the best team in your home state. And they hate TCU. The SMU TCU rivalry is a lot more intense and a lot hotter than I realized.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this year is going to depend on Kevin Jennings. Does he have a slump? Does he take a step back from last year? Because we've talked about he is magic. I mean, he gets under pressure and he's able to slip away from pressure and still make a throw on the money, running at full speed across his body. You name it. He's a freak athlete, can do things that nobody else can do on a football field. But does he take a step back, or does he continue to develop and continue to get better? Do we see a dip from him? If we see a dip from him, we're going to see a dip in this whole team because that offense is built around him. This high flying up tempo offense that Rhett Lashley has installed. He's got a quarterback that's perfect for it. And if it's working, they're going to have a ton of success. I mean, their defense should be good, but I really think that they're going to try to go out and outscore everybody. I mean, I really do. I mean, I think you're looking at a game plan where they're wanting to have 3-4 stops in a game. If they get 3 or 4 stops, they think they're going to win the game. And so that's why, I mean, it's putting a lot on Kevin Jennings, but I mean, this is the guy that led them to the playoffs a year ago. Led them to Charlotte. The guy that tied the game with less than a minute to go with that incredible drive to tie Clemson in the ACC title game. But I'm going over. I'm taking the over. I think their schedule lines up really well. Love what they're doing over there in Dallas, and I think it'll be another fun season for SMU.
Ralph, the big games for them, they get them at home. I think that's one of the big things. Miami at home, Louisville at home. They do have to, like Will said, go to Clemson. 8.5 is a lot for a team that is trying to, make this a thing for them, right? Like go into year 3 of, Rhett Lashley leading this program in the way that he has. But I think also too, man, I think there's some sneaky pieces that could really emerge for them as well. So, and we don't talk about this a lot, but their backup quarterback situation in Van Dyke, it isn't like he's not going to pop off the paper. It's like, oh, well, he's good. And I'm not trying to start a conversation that Van Dyke is like this elite backup quarterback, but he provides a buffer, and you got to have that in this especially in the ACC. But you got to have it at the Power 4 level of a buffer between the young guys that don't have a ton of experience and someone who can just knows how to like take a snap. I mean, like that is a massive thing that you have to have. So, Ralph, for you, SMU over under 8.5. I know you emphatically when we brought that up, you said hammer the over. But your thoughts?
Well, you took my statement I was going to use there about Tyler Van Dyke, because not only does it have a buffer, it adds Kevin Jennings some existence. It just, hey man, look, I've been in this kind of situation before. Just cool him down if he's struggling a little bit in the game, because if it's not Tyler Van Dyke, you're going to a true freshman in Ty Hawkins, who was really fun to watch in that spring practice we were there for. They're really high on him for the future, but they don't want to play him this year. The receiver from Jordan Hudson. They've been high on Jordan Hudson this year. This is a guy that wants to be the number 1 receiver and can be. This offense is obviously, like I said, it's a high tempo kind of offense. This is what they wanted to do. I think they easily get over the 8.5 wins. I think this team is really talented this year, and they want to challenge themselves. They want to challenge themselves for the future. They've taken teams off the schedule for the future, and they've added some tougher opponents. This is what they want to do. This is how SMU wants to be known. They want to be known as a Power 4 conference champion one day. And obviously with Clemson being the team they are this year, that October 18th matchup is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I think I don't know what the SEC's got scheduled that week, but if both teams are undefeated going into that week, I'm talking that's game day. I mean, that's true. SMU and Death Valley will be game day. Or sorry, quote, sorry. Death Valley. They call it Death Valley, but we don't know where it
it's the other Death Valley. I'm cool with that.
But
SMU 8.5 wins.
Yeah, I'm over the 8.5.
I was trying to look at who else was on that schedule.
You got East A&M, Baylor, Missouri State, TCU, Syracuse, Stanford, Clemson, Wake Forest, Miami, Boston College, Louisville, Cal. I mean, Clemson, Miami, obviously Baylor and TCU. I think they can beat Baylor and TCU.
Be interesting to see.
I think Clemson. I think they play Clemson twice.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. It's gonna be interesting to see if they got College Game Day for that game.
I don't know who. I did not look.
Tennessee, Alabama's that weekend.
Yeah, well, Tennessee will have 2 wins. It's okay. Let's move on.
Well, all right. A couple more teams here before we round it out. Let's go Syracuse, 5.5. Look, a lot of changes for a team that really, really exceeded expectations. In year one under Fran Brown, they made some staff additions. They made some team additions. Ricky Collins was named the quarterback, and then they say, well, not so fast. We're going to make some more additions here as well. But 5.5. Fellas, I'm going to take the over on this. I think they get to a bowl game. I don't know if they're challenging to go to the ACC title game, but I think they get to a bowl game. I like Q's in this one. I like what they bring back. I like the mentality that they have there as well. They got a lot to replace. Do not get me wrong in that, but 6 wins feels like they can get there and start to continue to maybe build something there up in upstate New York. Will, your thoughts on the Orange?
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go the under. I think this is another team that just got ravaged by the transfer portal. A lot of talent going out, not as much coming back in. If you look at star ratings, if you trust star ratings from 24/7, so I think it might be a smelly fall for Fran Brown. Also, interestingly enough, if you look at their transfer portals, they brought in a linebacker by the name of Fran Brown Jr.
Oh, shocking!
So. We'll see. We'll see if he has any impact.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll start. Sure.
The big thing for me, I am taking the over because I believe in Fran Brown. But where this is going to get tough is you lost 3 of your top 4 pass catchers in Kyle McCord. Like, you're rebuilding everything you had offensively last year, which is it's going to be difficult. And the schedule's obviously harder as well. Ralph, real quickly, over under 5.5. Where are you sitting with us?
I'm going to go under with Will. I just don't know. But this team's got a lot of big question marks everywhere where you look. They got ravaged by the transfer portal, like you said. The schedule's not in their favor. You got some tough games in there. You obviously a lot of ACC teams play UConn this year, which I think is hilarious to me. But UConn's not a team to sleep on. I mean, I said earlier in the show, it's not. You got a tough conference schedule. Obviously, you pull Clemson, Duke, SMU, first 3. You get Pitt. Then you go Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Miami, and then you got Notre Dame, Boston College. It's just not a favorable schedule for them this year. I hate it for them because I like Fran Brown. I think he's a good coach, and like Will said, it's going to be a stinky fall. I completely understood that joke. That's a great one.
Syracuse Orange. What you got, Will?
I was just going to note about how their hardest conference games plus Notre Dame all on the road. Notre Dame on the road, Miami on the road, Georgia Tech on the road, SMU on the road, Clemson on the road.
Yeah, I'm just going vibes. That's my pick, I guess. It's strictly vibes.
Oh, I love the culture that Fran Brown's installed at Syracuse.
It's
still got to have talent. Still got to have talent. And
Tennessee's first game in Mercedes-Benz. Remember that.
Yeah, they're not winning that game.
We'll be there. I will be there.
Yeah, we'll be there.
All right. Last one. Certainly not least, Virginia Tech. Hiron Drones did not average over 4 yards a carry last year, and that's why they were terrible. This is a pressure situation, though, fellas, for Virginia Tech. I mean, I think this is an opportunity where you could start off 0-2. You could be 2-2 rolling into NC State. By the time you get to Atlanta on October 11th, you could have 3 losses. And I look at this schedule. I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I'm taking the under at 6.5 wins. And I think if they go below 6, Brent Pry is fired. And I think both Virginia schools, there's a high chance that both Virginia schools could be looking for a new head coach. But if they can get to a bowl game and win it, 7-6 may earn them another year. But other than that, man, it's the Hokies. I don't know. Does this work? We'll see. I don't know. I'm not too. Their margin of how much they struggled, like it was very thin. Like they were very close one way or the other last year to being better, and they just couldn't close out the big games. I think they lose to South Carolina. I think they could lose to Vandy. I think they could lose at Georgia Tech. I don't necessarily know if they beat Louisville at home. I think they're going to have to maybe win one upset game, but I'm taking the under 6 wins for me for the Hokies in 2025. Which I hate because, like you said earlier, Will, that's a great place to play football, and it is. They really need to get back to what they were in the 2010s and early 2000s.
I'm with you. I'm going under 2. I'm thinking maybe 6-6 at best, and that's, to me, you're going to have to surprise some people. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I think the potential's there to surprise Vanderbilt because maybe Vanderbilt snuck up on them last year. Diego. They didn't know about Diego Pavia. Now they know about Diego Pavia.
Georgia State knew about Diego Pavia, that's for sure. But yes,
we're going to find out if Brent Pry is one of those coaches that can see the same quarterback multiple times and make an adjustment, because we know one coach in the SEC has struggled with that.
Might struggle again this year too, apparently.
Yeah, and Ben he'll struggle again too. But yeah, I think no more than 6 wins. It's a tough schedule for them, and just a ton of pressure. They got to go to Florida State. They play Miami, going to Georgia Tech. I mean, it's going to be a tough year for Virginia Tech, and they open with South Carolina.
Yeah, under. Ralph, are you making it 3 in a row?
Yep, under. I'm going 5 and 7. That's just, I just don't know if they can go to these road games this year and win at NC State, at Georgia Tech, at Florida State. I just think they struggle in those games, and you need to win. I think you win 1 or 2 of those to really get your 6.5 wins. And I don't think they win. I think they can win 1, and I think that's NC State if at most. Like, honestly, I'm with you though. Brent Pry is gone after this year because I don't think they succeed enough to hold him for him to stay in their year and just be okay with being below average.
Yeah, both Virginia schools looking for a new coach, looking for some new life. Someone needs to invigorate something down there or up there in Blacksburg, and obviously Charlottesville there as well. So, that's the ACC for you, though, folks. We appreciate you watching, appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you like the video, subscribe. I don't know if we'll be live next week, but what I do know is that by the time we do go live and Will's on the show again, he'll be a married man. So we do congratulations to him in that, and get ready for Biloxi and have a good time. And we'll see you there, Jonesy, whenever he watches this. So we appreciate you. We appreciate you tuning in. Thanks so much for watching. This is the Crowded Booth. He's Will Mannis. That's Ralph Leary. My name is Bryce Koon. ACC, going to be a loaded, interesting year in 2025. We'll see you next time here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.